So with the example 1 script that we just created, what we want to do is take a look at the basics of what a script is, kind of the anatomy of it. So let's go ahead and double click back on our example 1 and open up to MonoDevelop again. And inside of it, let's just take a look here. When you see the example 1 mono behavior, we've got a lot of these, we've got a colon here, we've got the curly Q brackets, we have parentheses, we've got periods, semicolons, lots of different things happening. If it's your first time in scripting, if you're coming from an art background or just a design background, this may look very foreign to you, kind of very similar to like a foreign language. There's words that make sense. I mean, we have things that say update. We have these weird forward slashes. So we'll take a look at those and delve into what they are and how you use them. But just for starters here, I just want to identify the basic body and structure of the script itself. Up at the very top, you'll notice the word using. Using is going to say what is another element I'm using for this script. So for instance, Unity Engine, I want to say I'm going to use parts and pieces from the Unity engine and make calls with it. For instance, a transform or a rotation. We also have system, and we can use systems, which is going to give us a lot of the .NET elements and properties. There's going to be a lot of different types of system calls we can make. But for instance, though, what's the bare minimum of what a script could look like? For C#, the only thing you need is a class call. So I could actually get rid of this, I could get rid of that, and we could actually have just this by itself. So if you had a public class example 1, you had no calls going to any external API sources, you just simply had a class name which was the same name as the file name. If I was to save this and go back into Unity, it would compile down in the right hand corner, and you notice there's no errors. You can create just as little as that. You can actually have your file structure set up. Now the moment you want to use something, the moment you want to actually have some additional calls and elements, then you'll want to create the additional structure that we had. So for instance, if I was doing using, and notice when I do using, it's going to give me the prompt and describe to me what using is, so in case I don't know, I'll have it really quick. Now I'm going to say using, and when I start to type in Unity Editor or Unity Engine, you'll have those options come up. So I could type in Unity Engine, or I could select it and push enter. Now to end a sentence in programming, you don't use a period like a regular sentence, you use a semicolon. So everywhere you see a semicolon means that's the end of the statement, that's the end of the sentence. So if we use Unity Engine, if we're going to say using Unity Engine, that means we have mono behavior available to us. So that's going to be what we're going to inherit from, or derive from. If we derive from the mono behavior, what this is going to allow us to do is call directly into our script code that we're going to be using. For instance, transforms and translates and render and elements like that. Having the using system collection, notice if I do using system, and then we have a lot of different, we don't just have to use collections, we have generic, we have IO, we have link, we have reflection, resources, runtime, lots of different ones that are actually available to you. The one that you'll probably notice the most is going to be collections and generic, and we'll go over the elements, the options that you have available to you through that. We can also look through Microsoft's library for it, so you can see all the other properties available with it. With this one though, we'll just go ahead and do the collection. We'll set this back up to where it was. Remember, semicolon at the end. Now the one part that's going to make the most difference inside of here is that what you're dealing with is punctuation. So if you're typing in capital U, notice my word goes away, I get an error. It has to be a lowercase, but when you're doing something like Unity Engine or systems or collections, you'll notice these are capital letters. So if you get an error, if you're seeing problems with it and it's your first time through, there's a good chance it might just be punctuation, and you just want to really start looking at, do I have it capital or lowercase, and is that the right way it needs to be? Okay, the brackets, the curly Q brackets you see here, these are basically designed so that you can have information inside of here. So your entire class is going to have everything associated with it, and within it is going to be in between these two brackets. What we had before was something that Unity had. It was 2 forward slashes right here, and these forward slashes indicate that this is actually an area you can comment in. I can type anything I want here, and there won't be a compiler error. This is so that you can make personal comments to what's happening. So for instance, if I say use this for initialization, and then we do something called void start, and we have a little another curly Q bracket, and we have some parentheses. We're just kind of rebuilding what we just saw, but the main part, and this is, don't worry about what you're seeing right here, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. This is just kind of looking at what's the structure of the file that we're dealing with. We have our name of our class. We have our derived, which we'll talk about later. We're deriving our calls that we can make into here. We have comments, and then we have what we'll look at later is going to be called a method or a function. Alright. And that would be rebuilding back what we just had. Alright, so up to this point, just feel comfortable that you've seen it. Don't worry about whether you've had to whether you've done it or not. It's just making sure you understand that there's elements that need to be here in order for the script to work.